Hey guys, my name is Rue and I'm 15. Do you like my tale? Of course, I'm not a real mermaid. But let me start at the beginning. By the way, I'm a little nervous. I've been watching Private Diary for a while, and now I'm getting the chance to tell my story. Press like and subscribe. When I was very young, I had a spine disorder, and a doctor told me to wear a heavy and uncomfortable corset. It was terrible. I looked like a small Terminator in a pink dress. Luckily, my parents found another solution and signed me up for swimming lessons at a public pool. I really enjoyed them. Do you remember the fairy tale about the Little Mermaid? When I was a kid, I saved a beautiful stranger just like Ariel. Can you imagine? I got a fish as a result. I was enjoying my practice when I suddenly saw splashes of water at the other end of the pool. Someone was waving their arms around and clearly needed help. There was no instructor or adults nearby. So I swam up to that guy and helped him get out of the water. A bunch of people immediately surrounded us. They wrapped a towel around the kid and brought him to a medical center. He was wearing a swimming cap, so I didn't get a good look at his face. I only remembered his bracelet had 2 fish on it. When I walked into the locker room, I saw one of the fish on a bench next to a note. Dear Water Fairy, I didn't have time to thank you for saving me. Take this fish as a gift. I will be waiting for you in the cafe opposite the pool today at 3:30 p.m. Wow! I quickly changed my clothes and ran to the cafe. I waited for him for several hours, but the boy never showed up. Several years passed since that day. I wondered if he remembered me and if he still wore that bracelet. It was the first day of the holidays. I could finally sleep as long as I wanted to. However, I had a friend that quickly got bored and dragged me along on adventures. Her name was Kathleen. Rue, I texted you 1,000,000 times. Why didn't you answer? I'm sleeping, Kat. Sleep is for the weak. Take off your Peppa Pig pajamas and meet me at our spot as soon as possible. Okie dokie. How did she know about my pajamas? By our spot, Kathleen meant an outdoor cafe not far from the pool. I have 2 news. One of them is good, and the other is amazing. My friend told me there was going to be a party to mark the beginning of the holidays in the park that night, and she had got us tickets. Wow! Besides that, an audition for those who wanted to star in a new Billie Eilish music video was going to take place in our city. Wow! Kathleen was a beauty, so she was determined to win. Will you cheer me on? Of course, I just need to go to practice first. When we came to the pool, my blood ran cold. It was closed. Hey, what was going on? I saw some construction workers nearby. One of them said that the pool building was in disrepair, and the city authorities had decided to demolish it. No! Tell me this is a joke. Rue, it's true. Look, even the news websites wrote about it. I felt like a fish on dry land. Damn it, I had so many fond memories of that place. Don't be a sad shrimp. I need your support. While my friend and the rest of the contestants were auditioning for the role, I was hanging around the studio hallway, bored. Then, a guy with a bucket ran out from around the corner and accidentally spilled water all over me. It really wasn't my day. The next second, a woman appeared next to me. She looked admiringly at my wet hair and said that I was exactly what they were looking for. It turned out she was the director of the movie video. She convinced me to take part in the audition. The craziest thing was that I made it to the second qualifying round along with Kathleen and several other girls. Wow, things were looking up. I was over the moon because I got a chance to meet my idol. However, Kathleen started acting weird after the audition. After all, we were now rivals. You went behind my back. I didn't expect it from you, Rue. I don't know what made them notice me. Can't you be happy for me? Yeah. Hooray. Yeah, unsurprisingly, she hardly talked to me at the party and hung out with other guys in the evening. I felt wronged and was about to go home when I suddenly saw a guy sitting on the lawn away from everyone else. He was wearing a cap and hiding his face behind a mask. How curious. Mr. Incognito piqued my interest. I imagined flirting with him. Hey, did you just get out of the oven? Because you're really hot. I'm Rue. But in reality, I only managed to blush and blurt out, "Hello, I'm Rue. It's hot in the oven, but you got out." What? Let me start over. Hi, I'm Rue. What's your name? The guy pulled the cap over his eyes and said it didn't matter because he had to hide his name and face. Girls shouldn't walk alone so late. Let me walk you home. Wow, he gave off such a mysterious vibe. I agreed, and we slowly walked to my house. When we were passing by the pool, I sighed sadly and told him how upset I was that it was going to be demolished. Don't you know? About what? He said that someone had hacked the mayor's account and made a post about the pool building being in good condition. It turned out the construction company had paid the mayor so that he'd let them demolish it. A scandal broke out and the pool was saved. That's incredible! Are you serious? I went online and made sure he was telling me the truth. That was amazing news! How can I thank that mysterious hacker? The pool is very dear to me. Well, don't worry about it. Besides, I like to swim here myself. He winked mysteriously and adjusted his cap. At that moment, I saw a bracelet with a fish pendant on his wrist. My mouth went dry. Was it really him? The boy I'd saved all those years ago? I wanted to ask him about it, but to my surprise, he spoke first. Rue, you are a nice girl. I think I can trust you. He finally told me his name, Fred, and confessed that he was the hacker trying to do good. No one can know who I really am. Do you promise to keep my secret? I nodded, mesmerized. Before I knew it, we reached my house. Fred kissed my hand goodbye and invited me to the cinema the next day. Then, he immediately left. Can you hear it? That's my heart pounding. Fate brought us back together. I'd never forgotten Fred. I decided to ask him if he'd remember that incident in the pool on our next date. Mom, Dad, I'm home, and I'm going to bed. I kept thinking about that incredible meeting that whole night. I was curious and decided to find out more about Fred's hacking achievements. There were many articles on the internet about the noble hacker. He had exposed many unscrupulous people. For example, before the pool incident, he'd published proof that a local factory was polluting a pond. No one knew the hacker's identity except me. Wow! Feeling excited, I fell asleep. I was watching TV during breakfast and saw an interview with the mayor. He was apologizing for his part in the scandal, and his son was standing next to him. I had to admit, he was a handsome guy. Unfortunately, he was probably as dishonest as his father. After all, like father, well, you get it. After watching the interview, I immediately went to the second round of the audition. Of course, I ran into Kathleen there. She was frowning at me from afar for a long time before coming up to me. Where did you go after the party yesterday? I was worried. Yeah, so worried you never even called me. My friend sighed guiltily and suddenly hugged me. I'm sorry, I was so nasty. Let's be friends again. Of course. We hugged and I told her about meeting an incredibly cool guy the day before. Nice. However, our truce did not last long. 2 people advanced to the final qualifying round, me and Kathleen. Passions were running high, and my friend started to glare at me again. I didn't know Kat was so petty. Whatever. Despite all that, I was in a great mood. I went for a swim in the pool and ran into some guy at the door. He bumped into me and didn't even apologize. What an arrogant jerk. I took a closer look and recognized him. It was the mayor's son, Eugene. Now I knew why he was acting so haughty. He suddenly grabbed me by the wrist and stared at my bracelet in surprise without saying a word. What a psycho! Do you think you can do anything you want just because you're the mayor's son? He didn't say anything, and I walked on with my head held high. That evening, I waited for Fred by the cinema. Where is he? We're going to be late. He finally appeared, out of breath and agitated. He hid behind a corner and anxiously looked around it. Is someone following you? Yeah, I was looking for information to expose someone else and angered some dangerous people. He made sure that some girl on the street had passed by us, dragged me towards the cinema, and we finally went in. To my surprise, he didn't even take off his cap and mask on our date. Did he wear them to bed too? I tried to talk to him about what happened in the pool many years ago, but Fred seemed annoyed. I paid for the tickets, so let's watch the movie. Well, okay. As we were leaving, I suddenly saw a familiar silhouette in the crowd. Kathleen! She saw us too, and looked at us disapprovingly. Fred suddenly said he had to go. I'll call you, Grace. I'm Rue! Yeah, right. Well, I'll see you later. He was acting kinda suspicious, right? But I decided that Fred had probably seen whoever had been following him again and run away because of that. After all, there was a reason he was hiding his face. Is that your mysterious prince? The one and only. Then I have bad news for you. He's a terrible crook and a heartbreaker. You should break up with him. Oh, so now you're suddenly worried about me? How many masks do you wear, Kat? I don't understand what the real you is like. I mean it. I didn't listen to her and went home. It was obvious that my friend was just trying to upset me because she was mad about the audition. Not this time, darling. I called Fred the next day and invited him for a walk. I couldn't wait to have a heart-to-heart with him. I had so many questions. However, sorry, sweetheart, but I'm going to keep gathering info today. Wow! Who will you expose this time? Just read the news as usual, and you'll find out soon enough. Well, see you later. Ciao! I didn't like feeling unimportant, but it was admirable that Fred helped people. I had no other plans, so I went shopping with my parents. It took a lot of time. By the evening, we were tired and hungry, so we went to a small restaurant near our house. I could eat a burger the size of Texas right now. We were about to order when we heard a crash in the kitchen. The mayor's son, Eugene, ran out, followed by the restaurant owner with a frying pan at the ready. You menace! Catch him! The security guards pounced on Eugene. Our eyes met for a moment, and then he ran out into the street. What was he doing here? The owner got so nervous that he closed the restaurant, and we went home hungry. My poor stomach! Can you hear it rumbling too? I decided to read the news articles about my knight in shining armor before going to bed. I wondered if Fred had managed to publish his new material yet. I found a recent article. It said that the noble hacker had exposed an unscrupulous restaurant owner. It turned out his kitchen was teeming with cockroaches. Ew! That was the restaurant we had just been in! That got me thinking. Hold on. Fred hadn't been there. Unlike Eugene. Something wasn't adding up. I didn't know what was harder to believe, that Fred was lying to me, or that Eugene was the noble hacker. I was going to the audition the next morning when I saw Fred on the other side of the street. Well, where was Mr. Incognito going? It was time to get to the bottom of it, so I started following him. I turned out to be an excellent spy. Fred didn't notice me, and I finally found out the truth. Unfortunately, it didn't make me happy. After all, Fred was hugging a girl. I got closer and overheard their conversation. Rue, you should know. I'm not Rue, I'm Grace. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not feeling very well. You know I have a life full of dangers. Then, that jerk told her the same lie about being a noble hacker he used to fool me. Ugh, I realized what kind of person he was. He used the fact that no one knew the identity of the noble hacker to fool gullible girls. He went through girls so fast he couldn't even remember their names. He had probably been running away from one of his poor girlfriends back then at the cinema. Is it okay if I take part in your play called The Lying Scoundrel too? I told the girl the truth about Fred. She angrily tore off his mask and cap. You're such a moron! Fred looked quite plain without the mystery surrounding him. You'll regret this. Yeah, sure. Was that really the guy I had been in love with all those years? I even thought about throwing the fish away, but I'd grown too attached to it. I almost forgot about the final round of auditions while playing spy. I ran as fast as I could, but I was late anyway. Kathleen got the role since I hadn't shown up. But I decided I would be better than her and sincerely congratulated her on her victory. You'll look great on the screen. And I'm sorry I didn't listen to you back then. Fred turned out to be a jerk. He was hitting on me too. That's why I tried to warn you. No wonder you didn't believe me. I was so toxic. We made up again, this time for real. After that, my friend told me that the director had been waiting for me until the last possible moment. I want to give the role to you. You were born for it. Especially since I found out that I would have to swim. And I can't stand water. I was over the moon. I was very grateful to Kathleen. She was awesome after all. But you have to promise you'll introduce me to Billie Eilish. I started to prepare for the role and often swam in the pool. I also thought a lot about Eugene for some reason. He was still a mystery to me. One day, we met again. He wrote on a tablet, "Hello, Sweetwater Fairy. Do you remember me?" I was stunned. Had it been him? It turned out that Eugene was mute. That's why he came off as arrogant when I first met him. Back then, he'd recognized my bracelet, but couldn't tell me anything. He'd lost his fish in the locker room recently. Apparently, that's where Fred had found it. Eugene explained why he hadn't met me in the cafe when we were kids. His father had always considered his son a burden, and that day abruptly sent him away to a boarding school. Eugene had only recently come back and immediately begun to expose people like the mayor. I was so happy to meet him again after all these years. We could finally be together. I guess you've already figured out why I'm dressed like this. Yeah, we're filming the music video. My best friend and boyfriend are cheering me on.